Gamers of Reddit, what underrated not-so-popular game holds a special place in your heart and why? Part 2. I don't know if it was unpopular, honestly, but I've not met anyone who ever played it, so at least unpopular in my area. Beyond Good and Evil is honestly an amazing game. The thought and love that went into its design and story is evident from beginning to end, and I think I've replayed the game to 100% about 50 times. It's just fun to play. It forces you to pay attention to find ways around obstacles instead of just barreling through, keeps you entertained with its story, and has a bunch of little side things to do and enjoy while you're at it. It's a damn shame they never gave us the sequel. There's a teaser for it after the credits, but they didn't complete it. They declared a prequel in 2018 and gave us a fun trailer, but then it didn't show up at E3 2019. I hope it'll still come out sometime. I don't think that game gets nearly the amount of respect it deserves. Maybe the gameplay isn't so original, but the ideas and the world, so imaginative and beautiful. To this day I play it from time to time and I haven't got bored of it yet. From the scenery to the soundtrack, the whole game is amazing. Beyond Good and Evil is a Michelin Cell game, and I think it's a shame he doesn't get that much recognition nowadays, because he really is an auteur. Something about the way his games present themselves is just different. The attention to detail, the little nods in a dialogue, the culture, there are very subtle ways which just say this game is unlike most other games you'd probably play, and that makes them remarkable in some context. They don't even have to be perfect, but there's something so unique and lifelike about his games it's hard to put down. I'm also a big fan of Rayman 2 and Legends, which I consider some of the best 3D and 2D platforming games available. It's a shame he doesn't seem to get much of a spotlight at Ubisoft anymore. I think he deserved much better at this point. Golden Sun. Definitely an underrated game. Everyone I know who's actually played it loves it. I'd totally recommend it. It's for the Game Boy Advance, by the way, unless you're considering the newer one on the DS, which isn't as good as the old ones, to be honest. And I can't even tell you how much time I've spent playing those games. Edit. Yikes, I kinda thought no one would notice this comment. It's nice to see so many people enjoyed the game. Thanks for silver, by the way. Enjoy your day, everyone. I was scrolling down to find this answer. Golden Sun 1 and 2 were my favorite games on the Game Boy Advance. Those FUN plot twists, THO, bait and Kaitos for the GameCube. If you like turn-based RPGs with 50+ hours of gameplay, this was an awesome one. You, the player, are actually a character. Kind of a spirit that follows around the protagonist Kalas, who goes adventuring across Sky Islands. You get a good ensemble of characters and travel to a lot of beautiful environments. The combat system is pretty dynamic and very engaging, and I recall the graphics were exceptionally beautiful for a GameCube game. Surprisingly to me, the game got a prequel a couple of years after the original's release. It was fine, but the original was definitely the superior one. Lobotomy Corporation. It's oddly scrappy and very unpolished. Its host is mostly royalty-free, albeit mostly good royalty-free, but there is just a lot of it as well. Really unique management game about managing an expanding facility full of SCP-like monsters, meeting work quotas while minimizing casualties. The monsters have very interesting mechanics and it all has a really cool emergency management aspect. The story also hits you out of nowhere and suddenly becomes really engaging. Really cool bosses too. A sequel is in the makes too, and it's interesting to see what the devs can do with more money and more intuition, though I can't comment much about it. They're getting a composer and the art style is vastly improved. Subwar 2050 was a flight simulator with submarines that was mostly forgettable, but the setting was amazing. It was a dystopian corporate future where super powerful corporations would war with each other over resources in the sea. I loved the idea and wish more things had been made in the universe. Cinemeyer's Covert Action was a spy game that even he thinks did a little too much, but at the core there was this amazing procedural plot generator. The big boss of a case might hire out specialists from 2-3 other organizations and you'd need to tie all the pieces together from among the false clues. There were many games to earn clues, Everything from wiretaps to tailing cars to cryptography, or you bust into an enemy safe house where you could quietly subdue, avoid guards or go in guns blazing. If there's one game that has potential to be incredible and a good remake, it's covert action. A few come to mind: The Legend of Dragoon, The Legend of Zelda: Oracle of Ages and Seasons. I was a young kid at the time and my cousin let me borrow them. She was so cool. She would show me the beginning to each game and show me some mechanics. Once she saw I had the eye for them, she would just give them to me, and the smile on my face I'm sure made her happy with her decision. Little did I know she was giving me a part of her enjoyment from games before she passed away from cancer. I had no idea at that age what was going on, but I do know that those games are amazing in their own right and keep me linked to her. The ending of The Legend of Dragoon with the end credit tile was evoking tears I had forgotten about. I also happened to complete the game on her birthday. Every year I play though all of these games to remind me of every moment we were together. The story of The Legend of Dragoon trumps any Final Fantasy or high fantasy novel. The combat was flawless and scaled properly with the games. The characters' personalities were enjoyable and meant something to the plot. The music evokes the setting and tone perfectly. This gem needs to be played to be enjoyed. Blue Point, please make me and Q's proud. 2 games, on the N64, Diddy Kong Racing. Not necessarily unpopular, but more lost to time. It was one of the first games I played until I had completely beat it forwards and backwards. On PS2, Frequency. The ancestor to Guitar Hero and Rock Band. I had a demo disc from a magazine with the first few songs for Frequency on it, and I played the hell out of it. I finally bought the game when the demo broke. Certain songs were locked behind higher difficulty levels, and you still had to beat early songs to unlock the later songs. I still to this day don't know what the last 2 tracks in the game sound like. Advance Wars, Dual Strike for a Nintendo DS is a god-tier game not many people know about. Turn-based strategy game like Command & Conquer plus chess, basically. It's up to 4-player multiplayer on one console. Multiplayer has huge skill gap, simple entry to playing, game is straightforward, and a nice learning curve. The campaign has hard mode which is really damn hard. Still haven't got an S rank on every mission, it's so damn hard. Oh definitely. I'm playing through it again at the minute, and it annoys me that they hit the gameplay so well, but I just can't get to like the style. I enjoy the kinda light-ish hearted and fun visuals and story of the first 3 so much more than Days of Ruin, or Dark Conflict for us in Europe. Being able to build seaplanes with a Drake Eagle combo would have been class fun. I liked both ways. But I also found the lightheartedness of the older games strange when you're sending out dudes to just get murdered repeatedly. The gritty feel tied it all together a bit more for me. Folklore. Awesome game. Released with the PS3 and fully involved in that motion controller gimmick. Which some people hate but I love. Picture angsty murder mystery, comic book style in-game cutscenes, beautiful cinematic cutscenes, and Pokemon-style beast collection that you use to get through the levels. Also you have a child's picture book that you collect pages from that clue you in on how to defeat certain special beasts. Only drawback is you play it through twice to get each main character's side of the story, which can be fatiguing, but please everyone, please play this game. Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. I remember we bought Cromans a while ago and my brother kept trying to sell it as you can customize everything. I played for a bit but it just felt empty. I just wasn't excited by it, and my builds kept completely doing foo all. A few years later we got Nuts and Bolts. And holy hell, there is some jank in that game that can absolutely work. I remember just putting a chair on a spring and beating a challenge. One of them I just decided to not build a vehicle at all. I just made a gigantic turret with every single weapon and it sat there shooting shit out of the sky. That game is incredible. captures the charm of the N64 version, but the gameplay stands alone from anything I've played in my life. It also gets very hard. You don't hit any major roadblocks, like there's always so much to do, but if you want to beat everything, then yeah, it gets borderline insanity. I know there was a lot of backlash to this game when it came out, but as I understand it, it's mostly because it's such a departure from the first two. It's considered a good game now. I still gotta beat 2E and maybe Grundy's Revenge before I even consider looking at it, though. Fun fact, I used to work as a linguistic tester. I never played the retail version of it, but in the earlier builds, and I guess in the final version, there was a type of challenge called Jinjo Speed. One of the features was that you could upload the challenge online. For the Swedish and Norwegian versions the upload failed every time, but worked fine for everybody else. We reported the bug over and over, and they always said they couldn't find the error. As the game development progressed we realized it had to do with the bad language filter. But even though we gave the uploads the softest of names, the filter was still triggered every time. And it only happened with Jinjo Speed, and none of the other challenges. All of a sudden we realized that the language filter caught the uploads, not because of the names we gave it, but because of the hard-coded title, which always started with the name of the mode. The Swedish, Norwegian translation of speed is fart, TL, doctor. The language filter stopped the uploads because the Swedish, Norwegian translation for speed is fart. F-Zero X. Somehow as a child my parents gave me a killer Christmas where I received my N64, Mario 64, Smash Brothers, Wipeout 64, Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon Gold and Silver, and F-Zero X. Never heard of any of these games at the time, but in particular I had no idea what F-Zero X was. Of course, with the lowest expectations possible, I turned it on for the first time. My face was melted away by one of the fastest and smoothest running games made by that point. It's still jarring to play that game, going from Ocarina of Time's literal 24 frames per second to a full-blown 60 frames in like 1999 to 2000. To this day I haven't even played F-Zero GX. I'm saving it for when I finally give up hope that Nintendo will make another F-Zero, so I'll have something to look forward to. Kenshai, I have sunk over 200 hours into this in the month and a half since I bought it. A samurai punk post-apocalyptic sandbox rebounds per game. This game does not hold your hand. This game does not care about the characters you make. Your characters are no more special than anyone else in the game world. Aside from some bounties there are no quests. It is a true sandbox. If you want to destabilize a nation-state for practicing slavery, you can do that. If you want to be paid for raiding ruins and recovering lost knowledge, you can do that. If you want to be a bandit and raid small farms, you can do that. If you want to sell random people into slavery, they got you covered. If you want to put people in a machine that peels their skin off them, make armor from their hide. Guess what? I remember watching my friend play it, not sure what version, and the thing that stuck out to me as a genuinely cool thing was that even the typical rebounds per game background choice was treated this way. The one I found most interesting was one where you have a leg cut off and are lying in a ditch bleeding to death. And you get nothing for it. It's like the game is saying, yeah, idiot. We told you that you were dying. What boon did you expect from choosing to be dying in a ditch? Phew. So, when I was a kid, my dad worked retail and would often purchase video games that hadn't sold after several months at a pretty steep discount. As a result, we got some really weird and obscure SNES cartridges. Some were pretty awful, others were diamonds in the rough. I think the one that stands out to me the most, though, is Gemfire. Gemfire is an extremely obscure kawaii strategy game in which you control provinces and then settle wars using a chess-like mechanic. It's pretty badly panned in most corners of the reviewing world. However, back in the day we didn't have many multiplayer strategy games. The board game revolution also hadn't hit yet, so we would spend hours and hours with friends playing the game, trying to suss out different mechanics. It was a lot of fun. Many years later, I would have the opportunity to rediscover it as a fellow fan of this super obscure game. Made a ROM that completely changed the scenarios and balanced some of the mechanics. Katana Zero amazing art, immersive and dope soundtrack, engaging story and just overall a very well made game. I'm not a hardcore gamer, I lean much more on the side of casual, but I really enjoy this game. It's easy to learn, but difficult to master. And you want to master it, because when you clear a level in a couple seconds the game makes you feel powerful. It's also very unforgiving and hard, but not in a overburdening way. It manages to stay difficult but in a way that makes you want to overcome it. And when you do, you feel freaking awesome. The King Kong movie-based game, the Peter Jackson one, played on GameCube. Usually I advise any new gamers to steer clear of movie-based games, as they're usually absolute garbage trying to cash in on the brand name with zero effort. But by God, this game surpassed all expectations. Didn't put it down for months. Me and my sister had amazing times with it. It follows the movie storyline pretty closely, but turns the levels into these surprisingly heart-pumping, sometimes pretty fooing scary, tense survival adventure levels. There's this one level that to this day I get anxiety thinking about playing because it was so damn scary, tense. Highly recommend 10 Temps, Firewatch. The main theme of the game is about dealing with your problems. I was dealing with a lot of problems I couldn't escape, and this game was an escape from everything. It gave me the ability to escape my own problems. It was about a broken man to find peace from his responsibilities. The simplicity is the beauty of the game. The dialogue was so realistic and funny at times. It's almost as if you would have been listening to an actual conversation between two real people. Lastly, it opened up my eyes in many different ways. It showed me the world can be beautiful despite everything else in the world. So many games fall into this category over the years. Comp 2, Xbox One. It was free maybe 2 Christmases ago and I started playing it and couldn't put it down until I finished. Nothing revolutionary but super entertaining. ActRaiser, SNES. I actually own the cart. Picked it up when it came out for reasons I can't remember and none of my friends even heard of it. Loved every second. Nowadays it gets a ton more recognition but I always feel like I discovered that game on my own. The Messenger, PC. Just finished this a few weeks ago. It was really fun if you like old 2D Mega Man or Castlevania type games. Super Monkey Ball, GCN. I was obsessed with this back in the day. Almost got a perfect score a few times. Got to the second to last level without dying a couple of times and nerves got the better of me. Great game with horrible sequels. 2 was May and the others are all garbage. Check out our other videos and subscribe and leave your suggestions and experiences in the comments below. Have a great day.